Alright guys, welcome back to Valorant News. The last chance qualifier is over for Sentinels. After a decent start to the tournament against 100 Thieves, they've collapsed in the final two series they played, especially against Leviatan last night. Out of the tournament, their season is now over. What will they do going forward? Changes I'm sure are going to be necessary with this team. Lots of reaction from the players, and also Nadeshot getting his own back after what they said to him just the other day. Very much intrigued to hear your thoughts in the comments below. Hit the like button if you enjoy. Subscribe if you're new as always, I'd greatly appreciate it. First of all, here we go with the LCQs in other regions beginning. This is the Pacific one. Detonation Gaming, they're out of there. Talon Esports take them down 2-0, and that actually leaves Detonation as the, well, finishing the season without a single win. 0-1 in lock-in, 0-9 in the regular Pacific League, 0-1 in the LCQ, and they're done. They're dusted, they're out of there. Unfortunate stuff. This is actually very similar, this 0-1-0-9 record, to Crew Esports. But Crew Esports decided that, you know what, we don't need to win more series than we absolutely need to, and come the LCQ, they will deliver the goods. And we'll get into that in a second in quite remarkable fashion, actually, it's got to be said. And this is where we begin. Cloud9 versus Crew. So I thought Crew were looking way better over the last few days, but I think that everyone really thought that Cloud9 would be the favourites in this one. And map 1, they dominated 13-4 on the map pick of Crew, let's not forget. This is, you know, really impressive stuff. Ascent goes their way, and you're thinking, all right, now we go to Cloud9's map pick on Pearl. They're pretty good at that map, so, you know, what could go wrong at this point for Cloud9 after going 1-0 up at this point? But I gotta say, this LCQ is turning into, like, the LATAM Revenge Tour. The start of this season, the Latin American, the South American teams were looking particularly good relative to North America, and then over time, the tide started to turn the other way. But seemingly, here we go at the LCQ, it's now the Revenge Tour, because they somehow dominate Cloud9 Game 2. This was on, I mean, this is so ridiculous. Crazy turn of events, right? This is Cloud9's map pick. I don't know what was wrong with Cloud9 here. They chose this map. They went in on the defense and got blown out the park. 12-0 first half here from Crew. Just put Cloud9 in the dirt, and just a great map from, like, all of the players. cNed obviously has been great, but that entire team played very clean today. So far, it's been like, okay, how good actually are Crew? Are their opponents just underperforming? But this was really impressive. 12-0 half for Crew against Cloud9. They do win the pistol, but obviously it didn't last particularly long, right? I mean, Leaf comes in here with the 1 versus 3 to just about save the day and ensure that it's not a 13-0. So, I mean, yeah, did it absolutely everything that he could possibly do, and still they do lose the map at the end of the day anyway. But nice play from Leaf, so fair enough. But it didn't matter. They go to game 3, and again, Crew get it done. I mean, this one especially here, the 1 versus 2 for Dephh towards the end of this round. Like, this is not a situation you can really be affording to lose if you're Cloud9. They decide to go for the double swing here, they don't get the kill, so just a few rounds that were just an absolute disaster there from C9 that you can't really afford to lose, and they go down to losers. Unlucky 1-2 to Crew, tough to play against a team with that much confidence, gonna grind out today and make sure we're able to bounce back both mentally and in the game for lowers. They were expected to win LCQ for a reason, gotta shut down Crew in the Grands. Now of course they've got one more series to play Cloud9 before they even get to that point, but yeah, wow, this is, what a run, right? 0-10 so far this season. They turn up to the LCQ and a 4-0 performance so far. Like, it's just ridiculous. They're not winning any more series than they need to, but they look legit now. There's no doubt. I mean, I said plenty of times during the regular season that they were better than their record indicated, but they've taken a clear step forwards, and the way they performed on even Cloud9's map pick and then the map 3 decider was impeccable, and they're now the favourites to qualify for the World Championship. Like, from 0-10 to potentially winning the LCQ is such a storyline. It's not done yet, but a 2-1 over Cloud9, and Cloud9 down to losers, right? Great series from Nags, I think, especially here. cNed has been great, but wasn't even required this series to do that much. And yeah, Pearl 13-4 in the end. If we look at that first half, was just absolutely devastating. And then 13-6 on Haven was competitive for a while, but then a few of those rounds we mentioned just went Crew's way, and that was job done. Then we get into the second series, Leviatan versus Sentinels, and this was one where, you know, Leviatan didn't look so good the other day. You thought Sentinels might have been favoured to win this one, but no, it's not how it goes, especially with how the first few rounds went in this one. I know that Sideshow was saying, like, Sentinels went up 6-2 here, only to lose 13-8, which is not acceptable by any means. And yeah, Sentinels just fell kind of flat here, and I will say that the series they played against Cloud9 was somewhat concerning, I think, in the way that the communication seemed to be going. I know that Marvd, of course, stepping into the IGLing role is not necessarily built for that role, I would say. Probably not his best position in theory, and it did feel like when push came to shove, there were some mistakes creeping into their game, and especially in a massive pressure series like this one, it was occurring more often than it wasn't, it felt like, especially on game 2 of the series, where this wasn't even close here on split. Lev get over the line, Sentinels go home, and honestly, with a whimper, right, like it wasn't even particularly close. zyppan did have a great round here, actually, to clutch this one up, and zyppan is definitely a player that they're going to keep him around. There's no way that zyppan's going anywhere next year as far as I'm concerned, but we will have to talk in a second about roster changes because they will be necessary for Sentinels. In the same way that before this tournament began, FNS was making his point very clear on like what Sentinels will do if they lose to 100 Thieves, what 100 Thieves will do if they lose to Sentinels, but at the end of the day, they're still both out of the tournament now, and I think it was expected that probably both would be at some point or another from this last chance qualifier, and therefore they will surely have to make changes. If you win the LCQ, sure, you might do well at Champions and you'll be fine, but if you don't, if you weren't good enough to qualify automatically by winning enough series in the regular season and doing well at playoffs, and then you're not even good enough to win the LCQ, that's not a good enough team to go into next year. So an 0-2 for Sentinels, this is a pretty shocking loss in a way, just because going into this tournament there was so much copium, as there always is, let's be honest, for how Sentinels were going to perform, or you could say hopium, I suppose, at the time, because they were talking about, okay, they've been practicing so hard, we're way more prepared than all these other teams and all this stuff, actually putting in the effort, and they just didn't really deliver on that, especially in this series, as zyppan says, gave it everything we had despite the circumstances. Thankful for the teammates and coaches, we'll take this experience and try and keep getting better, as TenZ says as well, they outclassed us today, just heartbroken at the moment, weren't able to play to our roster's full potential. Ending our year this early is really disappointing, so sucks to go out like this. Thanks to everyone involved. But yeah, it's going to be a different roster, I would almost guarantee, next season. As Marv says, first I wanted to say my teammates are incredible and they deserve to make it with the amount of work they put in the whole year. I came in late and tried to lead these talented players and I feel like I let them down. So yeah, difficult for Marv. I still think Marv is a great player, had a pretty rough tournament here, all things considered, but yeah, I still think Marv could be a critical piece of this roster going forwards. I'm just not sure that he's best suited to that IGLing role, and it's not to say that keeping Dephh would have been the right decision. I think they made the correct call given the circumstances, and Marv stepped up to those IGLing roles. But you know, and people said, okay, maybe Sashi should do it and all this, but that's not how they did it, and in the end, they just, I guess, couldn't deliver in the actual matches how they were delivering in practice, because the rumour had it that in practice they were being particularly competitive, and as Sen then say, okay, so practicing a lot doesn't seem to work either, we're losing no matter what. But that's now the question. What are they going to do going forwards? Because we saw the other day that Sentinel said, watch till the end, see the roster blow up, Droppenheimer, here comes Matt Haig and Nadeshot going to drop his old team because they lost this tournament, and Nadeshot then comes back with the Uno reverse. And this is where Sentinels have to answer the question, what are they going to do? Clearly that team of 5 isn't working, it's not going to cut it. FNS's prediction and theory was they will get rid of the Brazilians, or the Brazilians will go back. Pancada, like, it's funny really, because this guy will probably go back to Brazil and become like one of the best smokes players in the world yet again. Or whatever role he decides to pull out. Maybe that's going to be MIBR, maybe that's going to be Loud. I know that some have also said that, you know, could Sassy go back to Loud as well? Just because, well, you know, he was on there before, as was Pancada when they won the World Championship. I don't think that's likely though, just because Les has made his thoughts known that Sassy was... I think basically the talking point was that Sassy was toxic as far as Les is concerned, and the team environment wasn't good. So I think that they might welcome Pancada back, but I'm not sure that Loud would welcome Sassy back necessarily if that's what they wanted to do. But it's crazy really that this Sentinels roster, with all the talent they stacked, let's just go through that roster again. Yes, they had Dephh at the start of the year, which was, you know, in some sense questionable, but Except were good last year. They finished the year with TenZ, Marvd, zyppan, Sassy, Pancada. Like, that's not a team that you'd think on paper would be getting the results they got. And Sassy says, you know, just didn't reach my own expectations here, frustrated to be in that position. And as Kaplan says, yeah, nothing can take away the hard work and growth we have had, failed to show it when it mattered, and for that I'm sorry. So what's going to change? Are they going to revamp the coaching staff? Are they going to revamp some players? That's where people are raising the questions now, because TenZ, I think, well, TenZ isn't going to go anywhere. unless he actually decides to step away, which is possible. Let's not forget with the Kaido situation and how things might be trending over there, he might decide to, take a break from competing again, which would be totally understandable. So that's an option. I know that there's been some suggestions towards saying, look, Sasi Pankara released them, it didn't work, having like the multi-nationalities and the multi-languages at times. It's quite rare, I think, in teams that actually does work particularly well. So potentially release them, let them go. Keep Zekken for sure. I would keep Marved as well. Yes, he wasn't great towards the end of their stint, but I think like the IGLing probably took a toll on him a little bit in that sense. And TenZ, obviously you don't get rid of him if he actually wants to compete. And then bring in an actual IGL from elsewhere and see how it goes. And maybe you look at M80, right? Because the Guard have qualified. Maybe they look down to M80 and they look at a couple of the guys from over there, like maybe Xander, like something like that anyway, and just build up the team from that sense. That's definitely an option, but Sentinels have many questions to answer, especially like, why did they fall so flat when it mattered? Because it's not like Lev were looking good this tourney, really. Like, they looked pretty shaky, but they bodied them here. Like, great performance from Lev, and it was nowhere near right. The 6-2 advantage for Sentinels after losing the pistol was quickly evaporated, and then split despite the brief heroics from Zekken was absolutely not even competitive. So that's how the bracket now looks. Sentinels are gone, 100 Thieves are gone, Crew are in the grand finals, and then in a couple of days' time, so I've got a few days off now to ponder over what these teams are going to do next. It's Cloud9 versus Lev, and then the winner of that plays Crew on the Sunday to determine who's going to win this tournament to get advanced up to the World Championship. So very much enjoyed to hear your thoughts in the comments below. Hit the like button if you enjoyed, subscribe if you're new, take care, and I'll see you next time.